Teamwork, for me, particularly when you step into a leadership role, it's always about everybody else on the team. So, teamwork is really enabling your team members to succeed. Uh, they need to know you understand their needs, you've got their back. And I say that as a leader, but every team member needs to know the role, the responsibility, and they need to know how they help their team members succeed. So, for me, team is defined by selfless service to your other team members.
Welcome to the Rockstars Rocking podcast, powered by Voluntary Disruption, a show dedicated to people who are crushing their business and life goals. These are bite-sized conversations with leading rock stars in their respective industry who are pumped to share their story to help drive you to the next level. So, are you ready to rock? Speaking of rock stars, here's your host, Eric Silverman.
Hey, rock stars, welcome back to another episode of Rockstars Rocking. And boy, do I have a rock star with me today. Everybody welcome my good friend Eugene Starks out of Jackson, Mississippi. Eugene is the principal of Acuity Group, and he's also the current president of NAHU, National Association of Health Underwriters, whatever you want to call it. What's up, Eugene?
Hey, good morning, Eric. Oh man, it is fourth quarter, regardless of what the calendar says. We've been in fourth quarter for a few months, or at least a month. So there's a lot up. There's a lot going on with business and taking care of clients and trying to get on new clients. And there's a lot going on with NAHE. So there's not a lack of things to do, and plus my wife has a few things for me to do around the house. So not much time to rest.
Oh man, sounds like my family as well. Always something cooking, I tell you what. Well, listen, man, I'm excited to have you here, and I'm excited to just dig in. I got a number of questions I want to go over with you that I really think our audience would love to know the answer to. And our audience is a lot of employee benefits, insurance folks like us, but there's a lot of folks that listen to our podcast weekly, and I'm very appreciative of those rock stars that are not in the insurance and employee benefits world. So I'm not going to ask you every question about employee benefits, because there's a lot of stuff that you can shed light on that I know anybody can benefit from. One of the first things I wanted to ask you about is your vision of the word teamwork. I know that's a kind of a weird question, but you run a nice organization down in Mississippi. You're now the leader of a huge national organization that has profound impact on everything that we're doing in the world with respect to employee benefits and healthcare and so forth. What's your definition of teamwork, and how important or not important is it when you're running big organizations?
Well, teamwork's everything, so my definition of teamwork, is kind of reflected when you see, hopefully teams like Ole Miss and Alabama. I mean, they're both teams are clicking on a lot of cylinders, and we'll find out this Saturday who's clicking on all the right cylinders. So a lot of excitement there. But teamwork, for me, particularly when you step into a leadership role, it's always about everybody else on the team. So teamwork is really enabling your team members to succeed. Uh, they need to know you understand their needs, you've got their back. And I say that as a leader, but every team member needs to know the role, the responsibility, and they need to know how they help their team members succeed. So for me, team is defined by selfless service to your other team members.
So let me ask you this: you've been around quite a while. I've been around quite a while. We've led big teams. What about when we have that one standout person who, let's just call a spade, has a bit of an ego, has a challenge with teamwork? How do you handle that? What do you do to remedy the situation so it doesn't become a toxic environment for the entire team as a whole?
Yeah. So you're asking a challenging question, or really when that happens, that's always a challenge.
Mhm.
I don't want anybody to think it's a simple formula that you just add these ingredients and you got a cupcake. That's not the way it works. But the way I handle it is I make sure I build a strong relationship with that person, build trust, make sure I value that person's contribution, but then make sure that they know they're one of the members of the team. And it's really just not all about them, but it's imperative that they do what they can do well, that they do it. Hey, we're in the middle of SEC football and football season. you know there are some standouts, right? But there's no running back as great as he is, who's going to be a great running back without all the linemen blocking and opening the holes. So you may feel like you're a rock star, and you are a rock star, but nobody succeeds. I say a lot of times, when you see a turtle on a fence post, he didn't get there by himself.
It's true. I don't suspect he did. That's a good way to put it. I like that. So we're talking about teamwork. Let's move over to my favorite topic, and that's leadership. So you're leading your team of employee benefit advisors and experts and customer service professionals down in Mississippi, and you're also leading a ton of folks on your board of directors, as well as folks like me right there around the country in the I say NAHU, in the NAHU world. Um, Talk about leadership as far as what your philosophy is revolving around leadership, how you lead, and to me, it ties directly to teamwork.
Sure, absolutely. And I kind of foreshadowed that already in what I said. When you step into the leadership role, you have to understand it's not about you. I like the jokes that kind of say, it's like, hey, I'm kind of a big deal. Uh, but in reality, you're not. You're really no better than the team that's there. And what I love about our leadership within AHU is, you know, every year, you know, our team is so good that, you know, at the end of June, Kelly Frista is going to step in behind me, and we're not going to miss a beat because we all understand our roles, but we all respect the role of president. We respect the leadership role and what we expect from him or her. Uh, you know, but those who succeed best in that role are the ones who realize that now you're just there to create success for everybody else on the team. And so when we meet with our committee chairs, um, I tell them, basically, when I became president, I quit doing honest work, right? Now my job is to create a climate for you to succeed. So every day I'll talk to them and say, what are the obstacles in your way? What's the support you need so that you can be successful at what you're doing? If we have a great year with professional development, it's certainly because Stephanie Berger is a great leader. And hopefully it's also because I've moved some obstacles out of her way so that she can accomplish what she's trying to accomplish.
Yeah, I like the way you put that, and that kind of brings me to what I always like to chat about too when I talk about teamwork and leadership, and that's the importance and power of relationships, right? And it's not just to me, it's not just a business relationship. It's not just transactional. Me personally, I like to form and build a relationship that can withstand the test of time through good and bad with respect to business, because business goes up and down, but relationships, if you've built it properly and they mean something to you, it shouldn't matter how the business is going. What are your thoughts on relationships?
Well, again, they're everything. I've been married almost 35 years. I've got some practice at building and maintaining a relationship. It's important with and this, it's important with your marriage. It's important with your children. You don't have a dictatorial relationship with your children. You build relationship with them, and we have to be conscious to do that with our team members, whether it's at work or an important volunteer organization like NAHU. You have to focus on building that. And look, team members can have conflict, right?
Sure.
So It's continually building a process of trust, uh, admitting when you're wrong, uh, and having the courage to say, look, you may have felt good about that, but that wasn't a good choice. This is what was the outcome of that. How do we redo this? And you do that by talking about the goals and objectives and not bringing down the person, because the best people make mistakes, you know. So, again, you could go to all the sports analogies, but Peyton Manning threw interceptions, uh, so
Sure.
uh, so that's going to happen, but it's just a constant process uh, of you know communication, focusing on what you want to accomplish, and always building up the person in the process.
Yeah, I mean, I look at when it comes to relationships, I've changed my view on relationships candidly over the years as I feel like I've grown. I always say I'm a recovering carrier rep. I was on the carrier side for a long time. And, when I look back, the relationships that I built and created within my carrier days, um, some of the ones that I thought were very strong did not candidly stand the test of time. When I left the carrier world, our relationship kind of dissipated. Not because myself or the other persons actively made a choice to do that. It just kind of happened, which to me, when I reflect, reminds me or lets me know that my relationship from a personal level must not have been as deep as I maybe thought it was. And then I have other relationships that blossomed and became even stronger. And I'm not even in that side of the on that side of the fence anymore. So I think it is important, everything you talked about, and really it's to me it's just making sure that you take the time to invest in that other person, particularly if they mean something to you.
Right. Well, and I just want to add to that, because being in the carrier world, and look, my job in my agency is that of a producer. I
Hmm.
mean, we've got operations people. Um, you know, I mean, my role is a producer, so that it's something I have to guard against is when I'm talking to my carrier reps, that I'm not building a transactional relationship.
Hmm.
Uh, and when I'm talking to my clients, prospective clients, I'm not building a transactional relationship. I'm building relationship. That's my goal. And when I build good relationship, then we have the opportunity to solve client problems, or for the carrier to solve problems I have. So the ones I'm willing to bet, if you look at it, that dissipated probably tended to be transactional relationships.
Yeah.
And so you just have to avoid those. And
Yeah.
and the ones that were really built on relationship, even when life carries you in a different direction, which it does and it will continue to do. I've got friends I went to high school and college with, that when I see them, even though I hadn't talked to them maybe for 5 years, we pick up where we left off, because we
Bingo.
pick up with the relationship.
Yeah, no doubt. I completely agree, and I'm that way with a number of my friends from high school and college and so forth. And you're right. You don't have to see them every day or talk every day, but when you see each other, it is stereotype here, but it is the good old days. It is just like the good
Yeah.
old days. So, no doubt, no doubt. So let me ask you this: and I got your. For those that don't know, Eugene and his family. He's got a wife and two daughters. They don the cover of the NAHU magazine, America's Benefit Specialist, which I appreciate NAHU being very generous to me. They've actually allowed me to have a monthly in-print column now for a couple of years. So I'm in here too. But no, with all seriousness, what I love that I read in here is about your passion and love over the years of fitness and personal health, which kind of makes sense because we're in the health industry. Can you talk about the impact fitness has had on you in your life, particularly as you've grown? I don't like, my dad never says, don't say older, says wiser. So as you've grown
Yeah.
wiser, how important it is to make sure you stay on top of your fitness game.
Yeah. Well, you know, that's an imperative. And I'll just say, Eric, you know me. I may look pretty big on camera, right? But I'm not that big a dude. Um, and even as at a young age, and literally about 12 or 13, I just had this inkling, as encouraging as my mom was, that I wasn't probably going to be the biggest dude in my class. And, and literally at that young age, it just clicked that, I can be fit, I can be strong. Um, and, and I wanted to be able to compete with the bigger dudes. And the only way I could do that was to be more fit.
Sure.
Um, so it really started at that age. And then, at that young age, and as I grew older, I realized the value more and more of, staying fit and what it just means for me getting up every day. You and I were talking a little bit before, we got the podcast started. We've got a lot going on for NAHU. We've got a lot going on for my work. It's fourth quarter. We've got a lot going on here with my family, and I helped my daughter move into a new house. And one of my skills that's little known, we didn't talk about it much in the article, is I grew up the son of a carpenter. So I've got skills. There's things I can do and fix and and so every day I wake up, there's a lot of things on my agenda. And if I'm not fit, I don't have the energy or the will to do my job. So it's great to look good. I talk about that. It's like, I want to look good. I want somebody to look at me and say, I had no idea. When I tell people how old I am, they see me working out at the gym, they're like, I had no idea you're that old. I mean, my goal is to hang with the 30-year-olds and maybe not beat them, but they're not beating me by much, right?
I
Uh,
love it.
so
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 how do you balance that, right? Because you're a busy guy. You're running a business. You're a top producer. You're flying all over the country when you have to, when we're allowed to, technically. Um,
yeah.
and you're running a large organization now as the president of NAHU. How do you balance the time, family, work, personal fitness, and health? I mean, that's a top priority. Religion, I know, is big to you. So how do you balance it all?
Yeah, well, it is a challenge, and frankly, this year as president of NAHU, I consider that there are some things I'm not going to be able to do, particularly on the fitness side. So, for instance, a big regional competition is called Pensacola Beach Brawl in Pensacola, Florida. It's one of my favorite CrossFit competitions to go to. Go there, compete as a team member, not as an individual. Um, I chose not to do that this year because I didn't have the time to train and prepare for that.
Sure.
And it wouldn't be fair to my team members to say, hey, let me go anyway. I've only been in the gym 2 days a week instead of 5. So, I'm diligent to still work out as often as I can. I'm diligent to watch my diet, try to get my rest. So all the other components, but I just had to concede that this year, that one thing that can't go is my commitment to my business and the commitment I've made to NAHU. So that being said, for most people I run into, if we do a little quick workout, I'm probably going to hang pretty good with you.
So
So
what about days you're just not feeling it, right? You got business to do and family commitment, but tell everybody what you personally do on a day where you might not feel like going into the gym or going for a run or lifting or whatever it might be. How do you
okay,
get yourself out of that funk?
yeah, I'm gonna just tell you, it's very, this will sound wild. It's very rare that I don't feel like going. Uh,
Awesome.
well, because it is, so therapeutic for me to get into the gym. All right. So, and the reality is I can't. So, as I look at each week, I try to plan, because we're only disappointed when we don't meet our expectations or something doesn't meet our expectations. So, I know the end of this week, regardless of when this podcast runs, the end of this week, I'm flying to DC for our annual budget meeting. I know my time is going to be so busy there that that's going to be 3 days I don't get to work out, my fly days and my 2 days of work. So that's I just know that. Now, one of the things I'm diligent to do, and I use my Apple Watch. Hopefully, they're a paid sponsor. Uh, I use my Apple Watch and I make sure I get in a certain amount of steps. I have a goal of calories, and
Sure.
I may burn that throwing the ball with my dog, taking my dog for a walk, something like
Sure.
that.
Sure.
But I've got a calorie burn goal every day. and it doesn't feel as good as when I know I burned that through, 40 minutes of a high intensity workout.
Sure.
But there's not a day that I don't probably walk 10,000 steps and burn a couple thousand calories.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, I love it. And you're right. There are other ways to accomplish it, but there's nothing like a good sweat, nothing like a really good
Oh yeah.
hardcore workout. So now let me ask you, over your years of being in business and fitness and so forth and working out, have you ever had a time where you injured yourself or you got hurt and you couldn't do anything? And can you talk about resilience and what that means to you with respect to both business, personal, fitness, you name it?
All right. Well, funny you should say that since you asked me about it directly. Uh, right now, I am on IR.
Mm,
I have a partial tear of my bicep tendon on my right shoulder.
yikes.
Uh, and ironically, about 3 or 4 years ago, I fully tore the tendon on my left bicep. Uh,
Oh,
the upper tendon, not the lower. If you tear the lower tendon at your elbow, you're immediately going into surgery to get that fixed. Your upper tendon will, with time will reattach. It'll heal itself. Um, but that being said, everything I'm doing now is, really walking, running, lower body stuff. I mean, can't even do a box jump because throwing my arms up to do a box jump hurts like heck.
yeah.
So, so whether it's with your fitness or your business, and Lord, we've had good years in business, but we've had bad years in business. We've had those, setbacks, and so you have to be resilient. You really have to get up every day and do what you can do
You have
to
to
move you
adapt.
towards your goals. Right. Yeah. So you're always moving toward a goal, and you just have to get up every day. And my goal, one of my goals is to do CrossFit level 1 certification to become a CrossFit trainer.
Okay.
I wanted to do that this fall, or October, November. I- I've had to push that back for after the first of the year. I mean, I had it on my calendar and everything, but I
Sure.
can't go in and do CrossFit certification with the partially torn bicep tendon. You
Sure.
know,
Sure.
so same thing with business. We have goals, and I mean, things happen. In fact, this year one of our large clients got bought by a much larger client,
Mm,
and come January 1, they're not going to be our client. Um, so that's a setback. So we can be discouraged by that, or we can do what we should be doing anyway, and that is always building on your business.
right.
That's a torn bicep tendon. We weren't counting on that.
Oh, no,
Uh,
no, no. I totally agree. But I liked what you said about resilience. And as I said, you just got to be adaptable and you got to pick yourself up and keep moving, which it sounds easy, but it's certainly easier said than done. So let me ask you, you speak about goals. You're a goal driven person. Talk about your goals for Nehu as you're going into your next, what is it? At the time we're recording this, what's that? The next 9 months of your presidency. Can you
right.
talk about that? What are your goals for Nehu, and where would you like Nehu to be after you leave, and the future of Nehu?
Well, that's great, and I mean it's a great question. And what I one of the tactical changes we made, and I want to go back to, I want to say Pat Griffey and Dane,
Hmm.
and and I'm gonna give them credit for the genesis of this,
Hmm.
and it's carried out as we look at our succession. Who's following us. With Kelly Fristow, with Eric Kolsdorf, with Alicia, with Susan Ryder, who we know now is coming behind her. And we, there was this point where, it used to be a big deal to say, my year as president, and these are my goals for my year. Um, and what we, recognize is if we're going to grow and we're going to stay on the path we want, it's really not a year to year goal and objective that could have us lurching left and right in different directions. And we've done that in the past.
Yeah, you
You
can't
know,
keep changing the course every year. That's true.
correct. So what I aspire to do is continue to tick off our goals on our strategic plan, which Pat Griffey was the point person on that. As we go to our budget meeting, which is just 3 days from now, a big part of our agenda is going to be evaluating where we are with our strategic plan, making tactical changes now, so that we can continue to move toward our goals and and amend them as the market changes. So my goal as president would be to just go down those 7 key goal areas and continue to check off the top priorities. Like we've launched our member engagement survey. Hopefully you filled that out. One of the things we'll do at at our budget meeting is evaluate the feedback from our member engagement, because what we know is we have changing needs. Our members have changing needs. Our needs 10 years ago are not the same as our needs now and our needs going forward. What we're doing with our professional development, our focus on doing so much more in the self-funded space, educating, training, equipping members to do more in the self-funded space, which is not that limited space it was 10 or 15 years ago. It's a much more dynamic space. And it's where we see when we engage things like reference-based pricing and case management, medical management, directing people to the best level of care for them, not just cost, but outcomes. I want to see us doing more and more of that. Now, that's not just what Eugene wants. Boom, that is in our strategic plan. This is where we're moving.
I love that. Big picture.
Right.
That's great. I mean, so let me ask you this. When you, this podcast that we're doing here today will air in the next many weeks, but it's going to live in perpetuity online. It's evergreen. So for anybody listening later down the road, where would you like to see NAHU at a year, 2, 3, 5 years after you leave, and now we're in the Susan Ryder presidency and beyond that, literally.
Yeah. So, well, there's a lot of things. I mean, because now you can dream. When you're talking 5 years, you can dream, right?
Yeah, what's your
Achieving
dream?
goals.
Dream big,
Yeah,
man.
yeah, exactly. And so there was one point where we had 20,000 members. I would like to see in 5 years that we're back at 20,000 members. We're
Okay.
roughly about 15,000 now. So from a member count, now why is that important? Because when our voice is stronger and louder, the more agents we represent and the more clients we represent. And
Sure.
even with 15,000 members, I mean, just my relatively small agency, we're representing the interests of 70 employees. So my one membership, if you will, counts for 70. Now
Sure.
I've got some of my other partners that are also members, so maybe it only counts for about 30 of them or 25 of them, but you get what I'm saying. So when you have 20,000 members, our voice is so much louder, our impact is so much more far reaching. you know uh, I want us to be, and I think we're close and certainly in some areas, but when people think of NAHU, I want us to be recognized as the preeminent thought leaders in this employee benefits and in employee benefits space. I don't want to limit it to healthcare because so much of what we do is on the ancillary side with, protecting for disability, protecting for accident, protecting for these other things. I want, I want people to be seeking after NAHU members to be their consultants, their advisors in these critical areas that are touching their employees. I want Congress to think anytime we're looking at some kind of healthcare policy, who are the people that really represent the users, those who are accessing healthcare? I want to be the preeminently recognized authorities with Congress in that area. I mean, and we're on that path, right? But can we be better at it? We absolutely can.
Yeah, I mean, member growth is always going to be big, and it's. I would love to see it continue to grow. And today's not about me, but my story, as you know, is I wasn't a member for years. not for any reason, nothing negative. I just didn't know what I didn't know. It didn't, never clicked. I never had anybody really explain it to me. So I think it is mission critical that we as members continue to spread the message and create and share the value. And, I'd like to see over time we continue to work really hard to get younger and more vibrant. The industry is not known for being that appealing and exciting for college kids to go into. I'm the first to admit it. I started out of college, and I promise you, I never grew up as a little boy. I never said, "Papa, I want to sell insurance." Like that never came out of my
Yeah,
mouth, right?
never,
So,
never,
so
absolutely
I
not.
think it's important that we embrace the things that the younger generations are embracing. Otherwise, we're never going to click there. So, technology and social media and all the various channels and video, that's the stuff that's really gonna start to grab some attention with a more young demographic, for what it's worth, in my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think you're right on track, and you're right. So all of those things, for instance, um, in terms of our recognition, you know, I need the people like you, like Rachel, like Emma. Your voice is out there in on LinkedIn and in the social media spaces. You help with our message, and quite frankly, we NAHU have to be much more strategic in our utilization of those social media platforms to reach the very people you're talking about.
Sure,
Uh,
sure.
I mean, I'll share a very serendipitous happening. Uh, I went to speak at the St. Louis Association of Health Underwriters. They were celebrating their 40th anniversary as an NAHU chapter, and but spoke there. They had a great crowd. They had a great program. Very interesting speakers, myself notwithstanding. And but when I looked around, what I really saw was a bunch of young people there, and that fired me up better than more than the best speakers they had, to see those young people. A few months ago, I spoke at the University of Mississippi Insurance Day. In a couple of weeks from now, I'm going to be speaking at the University of Alabama Insurance Day. Well, those are messages targeted at these young people coming up
That's
in
terrific.
college in the insurance
Yeah,
program. There we can create some enthusiasm. There we can create some excitement, and there we can paint a picture of these people that this is not the old days of knocking on the doors and trying to get people to sign a contract. Uh, it's exciting. It involves relationship. It involves technology. It involves creative thinking. It involves
sure.
bringing it to bear tools that 20 years ago just weren't even available.
True. Yeah, yeah. No, no, I completely agree. And I love that you're speaking at those universities and so forth, because that is going to have a big picture, long-term impact. That's terrific. So as we start to wrap up, let me ask you, can you talk to us about the importance of the Capital Conference, or what we call CapCon? It's coming up in February 2022. I have the dates as February 28th through March 2nd, 2022. And just give us a quick snapshot of what this year is going to look like, or that you know of right now, because I know it's still up
Yeah,
in the air.
yeah. There's still some things up in the air, but our goal is to meet in person in DC, as we have done for time immemorial, uh, prior to COVID. Um, so our goal now is to gather everyone in DC, to use that time to educate our members about the mission critical uh, legislative policies, and the not just the not just what's going on in Congress, but what's going on by the policymakers and all of
Sure.
these agencies. I mean, one of the things we've learned is it's not just convincing Congress to pass or not pass legislation that's helpful or hurtful. It's about engaging with the people that are actually writing the policies in all of these agencies. So we want to use that time gathered in DC to educate our members and to motivate our members, and to turn them loose to be the communicators with their local congressmen and their senators. Now, what those meetings with Congress looks like, we don't know. Right
Sure.
now, we still can't go into the Capitol, still doing virtual meetings. But we think there's value in gathering together. And even if we all go to our hotel rooms or coffee shops or something like that and do a Zoom meeting with our congressmen or congresswoman or senators, that we think we'll see more energy, more impact, and really move us toward our goal by gathering and experiencing that energy. And as you know, what we gain from engaging with one another when we're all together outside of the formal meetings
Oh
probably
yeah.
does as much or more to advance the mission.
Oh yeah, those any conference you ever go to, in my opinion, and I think you'd agree, the hallway sidebar conversations, the bar, the happy hour, all those conversations naturally turn to business, and those are some of the best, if not the best. Not to disregard any of the speakers and I've been a speaker, you're a speaker, but I tell you what, those sidebar hallway conversations are always top notch.
Absolutely.
So,
Yep.
a reminder, February 28th to March 2nd, 2022 is Capcom in DC. Be on the lookout if you're a NAHU member,
Uh,
anybody in the employee benefits world. Go ahead.
yeah, well, I was going to say, I think I shouldn't get ahead of myself. I think you can go ahead and register for it, but if
Perfect.
not, it's on the calendar. Put it on your calendar, mark the time, and watch for the communications and sign up.
Absolutely. And then as when we're wrapping up, we don't have a lot of time, but we also want to make sure the dates are out there. I suspect you can't register yet, but the national convention will be in Austin in 2022. It's going to be June 25th through June 28th. So be on the lookout. Again, it's on the calendar, and registration, I'm sure, will start soon enough. Eugene, I appreciate you, man. This has been great. I really learned a lot about you and your views on both business and personal. I love hearing about what your thoughts on fitness. I have not literally jumped into the CrossFit journey yet, but you and Susan Combs are big into CrossFit, and you're my heroes. I don't know if you know Braden Monaco, but he owns a CrossFit gym in Massachusetts. He's big into it. I look up to you guys. I'm working out and trying to get in shape, but CrossFit maybe one day. You never know, right?
Yeah, well, look, I always tell people, don't be afraid of the dark. Look, the key to any fitness, and yes, I'm a devotee of CrossFit because I've seen what it's done for me and so many of my friends.
Sure.
But choose fitness.
Yep.
I always say fitness is a lifestyle, so choose that lifestyle. But you can wade into that CrossFit gym because the key is to do what you can do.
Sure.
Not do what you can't do. There's
Yep.
some big fire breathers. I'm not even trying to bench press 295 pounds or anything
Yeah,
close to that. So,
I got you.
but for anybody, I would just say, wade into the waters of fitness and make it a lifestyle, and wade into the NAHU waters and become engaged. Don't just sit on the sidelines. You can contribute a lot. And when you jump in to NAHU and start to contribute, you get a lot more out of it. And obviously, we're much stronger.
I tell you what, you get out of it what you put into it. Eugene Starks, everybody, you've said it all, Eugene. I appreciate you, my friend. I just show up and hit record and ask a few questions and let you run the show. But it takes a village, right? So I got a bunch of people behind me that put this together. So I appreciate them. For everybody behind the scenes at the Rockstars Rocking podcast, I'm Eric Silverman. That's Eugene Starks. And stay tuned for next week. We're going to have another Rockstar Rocking. Thanks, Eugene.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for tuning into this episode of the Rockstars Rocking podcast. If you haven't done so already, make sure you're subscribed to the show wherever you consume podcasts. And if you feel so inclined, please leave us a review. 5 stars would totally rock. Until next time, Rockstars, keep rocking.